Real Talk Spectrum community. Let's talk about plastic or plastics and the potential impact that it has on our health. Let's start with showing you this graphic of what's called the plastic resin identification codes. Most, if not everyone, is already familiar with the top part of this graphic, the numbers from a recycling standpoint. What you may not be as readily familiar with are the names of the materials / chemicals that could be potentially leaking out into our products. We'll go more into what those products are. I'm not going to read the whole table here, but you can feel free to pause the screen and look at the types of products or goods that are usually contained within each category code. Now, I got some supplemental information about this table from a guy off of Instagram with an account name Learn with Aditya, if I'm saying that correctly. He gave the check marks and X marks that you see on the screen here. So in general, what he's saying is that 1, 3, 6, and 7 should be avoided at all costs, if possible. Whereas numbers 2, 4, and 5 are quote unquote safer to use than the other 4. Okay, so how does this relate to things inside the household? Okay, let's walk around the house. Let's walk around let's talk about food first, the kitchen. So our juices, cheese, eggs, seasoning, fruits, vegetables. Go look in your kitchen, go look in your pantry, and just look and observe, right, how much plastic is there. And look closely, because not everything, at least not in my kitchen, is actually labeled with the number. And this could be very small vials or bottles of certain seasonings, or maybe some custom like seasoning jars you may have bought. I've also found that some of the the individually wrapped things inside of a box are not necessarily labeled with the type of plastic there, right? So just go look around, you tell me, right? But I do have a good example though for you. So we had a Rottweiler, great dog, that he would really be very eager to eat his dry dog food. We gave him dry food, and we started putting his food or transferring his food from the bag to a big plastic bin, right? Thinking that we would be keeping his food fresh or fresher, right? Than in the bag that's potentially, very lightly open and not fully closed. So we thought we would be doing him a service. And so what we noticed is that over time, after the food has been sitting there, he would eat it like fresh out the package. But then once we transfer it, again, not knowing at that time, he would stop eating it, or he wouldn't eat it without toppings, like some type of like gravy or some type of food, something added to the food. He wouldn't eat the food just straight up. So we started talking to our vet about that, and it was maybe suggesting a different food. We noticed the same thing though, changing the food. And I believe he also had a running stool too as well, or a loose stool too as well. And so we started talking about, okay, well, how are you storing his food? And we mentioned that we were transferring it from the bag to the plastic container. I don't remember which plastic container it is, that maps to matches to which resin code I showed you before. But what we noticed is that once we just kept the food in the bag, and just rolled the bag up really tight, of course, and buy some the little clips you can put on the bag, that we didn't have any problem with him eating his food from the start of the bag to the end of the bag. So just as an example, right, of him, and the container was in our pantry in the kitchen. It was, not to my knowledge, it wasn't ever exposed to heat. So that's just an example that kind of wakes me up to say, okay, well, man, we can avoid plastic because of the impact and the reluctance of our dog to eat the food from the plastic container. What about food that we have in plastic containers, right? And then I started thinking and looking around the house more. It doesn't just stop in the kitchen with the food. It's our hygiene products, potentially toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, liquid soaps. If you're using liquid soaps, the deodorant, you may be making a conscious decision to say, oh, okay, yeah, I don't want deodorant. I want natural deodorant that doesn't have any aluminum in it. Right? Okay, great, makes sense. I made that move. But go look at your deodorant, right? What is it sitting in? It's sitting in plastic. So is that good or not? I don't know. Laundry products, detergent, fabric softener, etc. Right? And you would think that from the resin identification code chart that all of those things, if they're coming from, what was it, 2, 4, 5, the safer codes, that is fine. So one of the things that Aditya, the guy from Instagram I mentioned, again, his details will be in the description. His details will be in the description of the video. One of his points was that, okay, 1, 3, 6, and 7 are absolute stayaways. 2, 4, or 5, you can hang on to those. But his point was, all plastic, if exposed to heat and if it's damaged, could potentially leak out toxins, right, out into whatever the product is. So, you could say, well, my juice is always in the refrigerator. It's refrigerated. Okay, fair, but what about the plastic? Right? Under what conditions was it manufactured? When was it ever exposed to the heat? During the whole supply chain process, right? During product manufacturing, product packaging, shipping, was that plastic exposed to heat? Has it already lost its quote unquote integrity and is leaking out chemicals potentially in whatever product that would be then put into it, right, when it goes on the shelf? Again, and go back to my dog example. If I have a product that I know 24/7 is sitting in a climate control environment, i.e. my pantry, and he doesn't want to eat the food from there, then what's the impact that everything they were using potentially that's sitting in plastic has? Again, I don't know the type of plastic that was in, but just bring it up as a reference point. And then what about even hairdressing? So women, curling irons, then you got the hair dryers. What about, hair dryers? So you have all the holes in the hair dryer, right, emanating the heat. What's that material? It's a hard plastic, right? Yeah, pretty sure it's a hard plastic that is being heated. So is that chemicals? emanating potentially, right, through those holes into your head. I don't know, just food for thought here. And then there's water, of course, right? We've heard for some time now that water is, if you see a store outside that has water that's just been sitting under the sun and sitting out the heat, probably shouldn't drink that. And full stop, really. I've been hearing recommendations and I've been following them to move away from drinking water out of plastic and moving more to drinking it out of glass or metal containers, right? The problem is, or the question is, well, where did the water come from before? where was it stored before, right? Is there ever a point where the water, again, going back to that full supply chain question, where the water wasn't stored in potentially, leaky plastic containers, right? That's the question. So so again, all plastic products, according to Aditya, can leak toxic chemicals when they're heated or damaged. And again, given my dog example, maybe even when they're not heated or damaged, just maybe over time they could just leak out those chemicals. Who knows? I don't have the research. I just want to just bring this up to open up some thought. Again, for the best choice, according to him, is to move to materials like metal and glass where possible. He did not just indicate just for water. He meant just in general. Right. And some of us may already be doing that. We have our mason jars, we have other containers that we're buying at home. We're buying stuff and we're transferring it to those other material types. But again, my question is what happened before when it was sitting in plastic? Is it already lost some of its integrity before we transfer it to the better material, right? So, do I know how much toxins could be leaking or what could be enough to be considered lethal? No, I don't have that research, and I haven't done that research. My point was just to, while we may be good at making conscious decisions, for example, with our water intake, right? Not drinking from plastic, drinking out of a container that's metal or glass, or drinking certain types of water, alkaline water, artesian water, H3O water, which is based off of fruits. I do recommend you looking into that more. Spring water or glacial water, right? We can make very conscious and great decisions when it comes to our water intake, but I just wanted to highlight and kind of expand the aperture a little bit and us start thinking about more, right? What are the other impacts that we're not thinking about as readily? So I wanted to start that conversation and hear more about it. One last thing, food for thought on water. There's been many concerns about the quality and the public water supply in various parts of the country here, the US. And one of the suggestions that I've seen is, putting water filtration systems in your home, whether that be directly on the faucet itself or potentially a whole home type of system, right? So here's my question. How nourishing or healthy is the water by the time it comes through our home through the water line, right? Water line, meaning the refrigerator, dispenser, or the sink. And why I asked that question of how nourishing is it really is, I was just the other day, we have a sprinkler system and it's been really hot lately. So we turned it on. It's been running, I don't know, three or 4 days out of the week it's programmed to run. And it's running, and then of course grass is mostly still Still burnt, still brown. We get 1 day of rain, maybe 1.5 day of rain. And I don't know if it's the rain itself, or is it the volume of the rain, compared to the volume of water that came out of the sprinkler system. Like, is that the big difference? But it always amazes me of I can water the grass for 3 to 4 days out of a week, right? The following week it can rain one day for, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour. The next day that grass is starting to turn green. So why is that? Is it because the rainwater is still filled with all of the good minerals, right, that's needed to create life, right, to support and sustain life, right? Is that what it is? And then by comparison, the water that we have in the water supply, has that already been stripped out of all of the minerals that would be needed for nutritional or value or nourishment value, right? Or is it not stripped out, but has it been countered by toxins that are introduced into the water for purification purposes? One thing that comes to mind potentially is fluoride. That's been talked about in terms of something you might want to think about making sure that you don't have that in your water, fluoride. So just a thought. It's just, I'm not saying we don't do anything, just saying, and by anything I mean like not saying we don't do anything such as getting the filters and things of that nature. I'm just saying, like, just give it some more thought, right? Do we have a bigger problem than you can really fix, right, yourself with direct filters at your faucets, getting an in-home unit, right? Are there bigger problems? Does the root go further, right? I'm very curious to see what you think about that. And if you do think it does, when you really sit back and analyze it, be curious to see what you think. Leave a comment, and I'd be happy to engage with you in the community on this. So that's it for the Real Talk Spectrum for today. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for joining again. Thank you.